Hello everyone, hello beautiful people following Lada and everybody watching Lada's channel. And I am Moonlight Soul or Mila. Some of you might know me because you had already had interactions with me. And I was asked to record a video about the eclipses, which we are just about to experience. The first one of next week, the lunar eclipse, full moon lunar eclipse in Pisces. So I was being asked by Lada to record a video about the eclipses and the topic of these eclipses from evolutionary astrology perspective. Unfortunately, Lada wasn't feeling well enough, so she couldn't join me for this conversation. So I'm just going to try to do my best. I hope some powerful, valuable messages will come through. So I'm just going to dive straight in and share some charts. Okay, I prepared quite a few charts because as many people might be aware, cycle always begins with a new moon. So with regards to the full moon, which we are just about to experience next week, for some of us, it will be still on September 17th. For me here in Eastern, it will be at 22:45. This is the eclipse chart, not the full moon chart. For some people, it will be already September 18th, which is the following day. So this is the full moon, this is the eclipse chart, but it is the full moon. It's happening literally a few minutes after the actual full moon. We can see there is only 6 minutes, right? 6 minutes difference. So this chart got seeded, the energy of this moon got seeded at the new moon in Pisces, which was on March 10th, 2024. So this is where the energy got concepted with the new moon in Pisces. We see that it was in conjunction with Saturn, in conjunction with Neptune. At the time, Saturn was in a closing phase to the moon, and Neptune, as the ruler, modern ruler of Pisces, was in a new phase. Now, this has changed because now we have Saturn is right behind the moon, therefore moon is in a new phase and moon is closing to Neptune. So what does this represent? We know that moon is our inner world, is also our sense of identity. A lot of people understand moon and Cancer as the family, our memories, where we came from, our heritage and stuff like that. So with regards to this moon now closing to this Neptune is saying there is something that has to end, something that has to be released with regards to our attachment to who we were. And at the same time, we can see that already Neptune is coming closer and closer to the North Node. They already within the degree of conjunction. They are going to have an exact conjunction on February 7th next year, which will be before the eclipse season. So we can see that things are culminating. Things are culminating here. Already during the new moon in Pisces, we could see that there were a lot of things, a lot of activities were in a Pisces house. There was some activity in Aries house. We can see Mercury as the upcoming ruler of the South Node, the node we will be resolving as of January 2025, which it will be in, South Node will be in Virgo, North Node will be in Pisces. So Mercury at the time of the new moon in Pisces was in the sign of Aries on 0 degrees, which is the analytic degrees. Pluto already was in the sign of Aquarius for the second time. And we can see both Mars and Venus were in the sign of Aquarius as well. This was post their first conjunction with Pluto in the sign of Aquarius, and also post their conjunction with one another, even though they already conjuncted in the sign of Aquarius for the first time in 2022. So at the time, we can see they were both making a positive aspect trying to the South Node. And we are also coming up towards the solar eclipse in Libra, which we will talk about next. So we can see indication that we are going to have to be liberating from this South Node with Libra, which is that conditioning that came from someone else, external entity, external environment, because the Libra is the reflection, is the mirror. The Libra is our feedback mechanism. The Libra is not what is created. The creation comes from within. The other is just reflecting to us what is within us, or what we need to change, or whatever. It's the manifestation. So with this trine that was at the time active, pointing to this South Node, was saying that there is something that needs to be resolved. And it means, and it's going to be resolved by us stepping into our individuation and our authenticity, because in opposition with Aquarius, we have Leo. And we see that, yes, the structure of the reality as we know it, Saturn is ending, and Neptune, you know, the moon being right behind the Neptune, so that would put the Neptune in a new phase conjunction with the new moon in Pisces. We are seeking a deeper meaning and reconnection with all that is, because Neptune Pisces is the source, is that all there is, the oneness and the wholeness. And this was still at the time prior to Jupiter-Uranus conjunction. So this was already spoken about, and we know that the story of the past, which was built on this disconnection from oneself, Taurus, as the physical body, the physical incarnation, was ending. Now, we fast forward to the current moment, which is, of course, this eclipse, which we will be experiencing next week. And now things have moved. Jupiter is already in the sign of Gemini, expanding our consciousness. This is already an Aquarian decan, 20 degrees Aquarian decan. Jupiter is preparing for his retrograde, which will be happening next month. So we still have almost a month to go. So Jupiter is going to gain a few more degrees prior to this retrograde, but this is already Aquarian decan. Again, this Aquarius flavor is coming up for us, even though Pluto is now back in the sign of Capricorn, and we can see that there is this beautiful kite being created in the sky, and at the precipice of that is this Neptune, is this eclipse, is this full moon lunar eclipse in Pisces. And also the roof of this kite is built from Uranus, Neptune, and Pluto, which are these evolutionary planets, the outer planet, which are changing the direction of our evolution. They are very impactful planet, which impacts the entire generation. It's not like personal planet that impacts us personally in its own individual way, depending on our personality and also on the experience we have in. These planets, they don't care about that. These planets, they are evolving the entire human collective, because they are not personal planets. And we can see all three of them are retrograde. Retrograde planets are always on the accelerated path of evolution. So they are taking us inwards in order for this change to happen on the inner landscape, because then it's going to be projected into outer environment. And we know that this outer Libra is just a reflection, so we can see that whatever is taking place in our personal life and in the world is being divinely orchestrated and supported by the divine power, by the universe. And also Saturn, as I mentioned here, the moon is in the new phase conjunction with the Saturn, but Saturn is closing to Neptune. They are going to have a conjunction in Aries, and not until 2026, I believe, but still the old way of existing in this world, the old matrix is dissolving, because a lot of aspects of that lost meaning. 29 degrees Pluto in the sign of Capricorn, ruled by Saturn, retrograde also. 29 degrees, once again, it's an anaretic degrees. It's all about the totality of that sign. And Capricorn is the structure of our reality, is the definition, is the direction into which we walk in, and the direction we've been walking towards until this point is ending. It's ending. There is no further to go. And we can also see Jupiter is squaring this eclipse and also the full moon in Pisces. And this is all about this need for expansion of consciousness, need for new choices, need for stepping into and embracing our multidimensionality, because we know the conjunction between Jupiter and Uranus, also Mars as the current ruler of North Node, happen in the sign of Taurus. And Uranus is fracturing and fragmenting this current foundation of our reality, our attachment and our fixation of how things were, because they were set up for survival. Taurus, to have our basic needs met and to be able to survive. However, this is no longer in alignment, because in this time and age we are co-creating together, Aquarian age, it is not about survival, it is about going beyond, about individuation, about authenticity, about reconnection with the heart, about equality. It's about a joyous experience of life on this planet. There is enough suffering, there is enough sacrifice. This is all the lower vibration of Pisces archetype, the martyrdom, the victimhood, the isolation, the imprisonment, the slavery. This is all the lower vibration, also slavery connected to Virgo. This is something that we're moving away from. As I mentioned, we will have South Node in Virgo as of January 2025. So Mercury will become the ruler of the South Node, and Mercury is continuously moving and is helping us to reconnect with all these different aspects of ourselves that had to be suppressed throughout the Pisces age also, but the times prior to that, because Pisces is the totality of everything. It's not just the time since Jesus Christ, which is the Pisces age, the Piscean time, the 2000 years since. This is much more beyond that, because it's all there ever was, manifested in a reality which we can see the result, the consequence of now in a manifestation in a world we are experiencing at the moment. And once again, with the Mars being the ruler of the North Node being in a sign of Aries, which is all about trying something new. Aries is the new beginning, is the new direction. These two, Chiron and North Node, they conjuncted in February. They are still in a new phase, even though it's no longer a degree conjunction, still in the same house though. And Chiron being in a retrograde is once again is taking us inward to look at those wounds that are stopping us, that are preventing us, that are keeping us attached to this old, and especially to these old identities. Mars being in the sign of Cancer, these old identities that we are no longer having to play out, that there is actually a time now in the history when we can let it all go. All these old contracts, cords, karma, all this being reincarnated over and over again to play the polarity role, that you did this to me, okay, now I have to come back and I need to play the opposite role or whatever. It is all about balancing of the scales in order to neutralize these two energies, the positive and the negative, the polarity, so we get back to the 0 point from which everything is created. And also we can see Mars is squaring the nodes. Mars is also, I mean, it is a little bit white orb, but technically, you know, like it is, because it is squaring the nodes and the node is conjunct Neptune, and that Neptune is conjunct the moon. It is involved in this eclipse, but it is squaring the nodes still, almost exact. And the resolution node is the North Node, ruled by Mars, and Mars is in the sign of Cancer. This is still a Cancerian decan, which is about the identity, and it's also about reconnection with the true essence of who we are, our true identity, which is being the divine being, having a human experience. Everything else that we adopted as our identity is just the labels. Mercury is just a way of identification. All these labels, titles, you know, like all our experience and experience of our ancestors and our past life experiences, these are all just costumes. They are all just costumes that we can actually take off and decide for ourselves, okay, what other costume do I want to try on? What other role do I want to play? But it is not necessarily easy, because we have emotional attachments to these costumes, to these roles. And I know, especially, you know, for people with a lot of fixed signs, like, for example, myself, we get attached that, oh yeah, I don't particularly like this anymore or whatever. Or, you know, like when you have your old pair of jeans or something, and you know that, okay, well, they're all ripped and they are all, you know, worn out or whatever, and I should replace them, but I have attachment to them because I remember all these things that I experienced when I was wearing this pair of jeans or something like that. So this is what I mean. We all talking about this new age, golden age, Aquarian age, and you know how everybody just want to be free to be themselves, and you know, and just to exist in a reality where we are just joyous and stuff. And of course, in theory, it all sounds fantastic, and we all want that. Well, most people want that. However, we still have these attachments to the past version of ourselves, which in one way we need to release, because we cannot have a different reality if we keep the same personality. This is a teaching of Dr. Joe Dispenza. In order to create different reality, experience reality differently, we need to have a different personality. And this is what's going on here. The moon, our identity, our inner world, our inner landscape, is conjunct Neptune, closing phase, and this is the eclipse. This is the chart of the eclipse. And also we can see the Lilith is in a closing phase with South Node, and it is in the sign of Libra, the shadow of the humanity, the inequality that we've been experiencing. We can see Venus here. Venus is already on the Gemini decan, which is about the choice. What are we choosing in order to bring more balance and harmony into our life? But we can see Venus is still is already coming into the degree of squaring Pluto. and this is a closing square, which is the crisis in consciousness. There is so much releasing that has to take place because the energy of the new is already here. It's already here. It's been here for some time. However, we are in this transitionary period where we need to do a lot of releasing, a lot of healing, a lot of purging, in order to create space for this new to come in, because we cannot have both, because these are frequency mismatch. The fifth dimensional, age of Aquarius, whatever, which is again, it's not like, it doesn't mean you're gonna go somewhere like be blown up to another planet, shot off in a rocket. It's just mean living in a different vibrational state, different emotion. Like when you doing the things you love and being in a flow, you are in a higher vibration. When we do things that we, especially if you have a job that you don't like and you have to be in the job every single day, 5 days a week, it puts us lower in a lower, it lowers our vibration. So this is where we interacting with the third, second, or even first dimension. Whereas actually, like when you are doing the things you enjoy, whatever it is, walking in the nature, playing with your dog, something, that is the fifth dimension. You don't have to be blown into different planet to experience fifth dimension. That is the fifth dimension. But it requires for us to give ourselves permission to do the things we love, to be who we are, to allow ourselves to nurture ourselves, to have the compassion for ourselves and the forgiveness. Also with the Neptune, Pisces, and also Moon in Pisces, there is a lot about this compassion and forgiveness. And most of the time we have to forgive ourselves for, we obviously, in many people's lives, there are people that we need to forgive to, external of us, but in many cases, the the biggest grudge we hold is against ourselves, where we judge and beat ourselves up for the imperfections, for the mistakes, for whatever it was that we experienced, or just like, why would my soul chose this experience, right? And just berating ourselves about that. So anyway, I don't, because I have a limited time, so I don't want to spend the entire time on this Pisces full moon. But the core message of this lunar eclipse in Pisces, full moon in Pisces, lunar eclipse, is that there is an era of humanity that is ending, which is connected to this sacrifice, need for perfection, which always creates division and inequality, because it's this judgment towards oneself, which comes from the conditioning, from the programming, which says that these are the expectations, this is what we have to become, who we have to be, what we have to achieve. Not everybody is wanting the same thing or willing to put in the same thing or is able to achieve these things that the society say we should all be achieving and doing and stuff. And then it creates the fragmentation of the soul. Of course, everything is divinely orchestrated. The soul knows exactly what environment, what family, what religion, what culture is it going to be born into, to give itself this material to work with. Because the hero's journey, we didn't come here just to have an easy time, because the diamond is created under pressure, so is the pearl, right? Like we need to go through experiences and also experience the contrast, because how we would know if we didn't experience the contrast, right? So we are all born into certain environments that gives us a material that is going to prepare us for the life that we came here to live. And then we go through life to learn in our lesson and decondition and heal and release these patterns that we were born into, that we sign up to go like, okay, yeah, I'm going to work on my own evolution and transmute or transform this family line and the collective consciousness at the same time, because everything is interconnected and it's happening simultaneously. So with this full moon, lunar eclipse in Pisces, it's saying the new is already here. The new is already here. The North Node in Aries Decan, right? It's close into this Neptune. It's saying in order for the future and the past, to meet, there is this transitional. We are in the transitionary period where the one is giving the way to the other. But in order for one to replace the other, in a sense, the old has to be integrated. It has to be, in many cases, released, healed, released, and integrated. The experience has to be integrated, and we need to understand the meaning of what got us to this point. Because if we are in a rejection and resentment of that, then we will just keep reattracting the same thing, because what we resist persists is one of the laws, the universal laws, law of attraction. What we resist persists. So how can we find a point of neutrality, which is what the Libra is about. So yeah, so this is an out of sign, of course, because we have an eclipse in Pisces, but the nodes are still in Libra and Aries. But yeah, with the Pluto on 29 degrees, the Pisces element over here, and also the Venus, Venus being in opposition with Chiron and square to the Pluto, and Jupiter squaring Saturn, and Mars is squaring the moon and the nodes. Mars is squaring, well, moon is far degree, but still, it's squaring the nodes exact. So this is all about breaking free from the outdated stories, outdated identities, and making a different choice, which doesn't mean it's easy, because this is all we know. This is what we experience. This is what we're familiar with, the 29 degrees. And this cycle will then end with the new moon in Pisces 2025, which will not be an eclipse. Even though the nodes will already be in a sign of Virgo and Pisces, this will not be an eclipse, because we'll have one more eclipse in Aries at the end of March 2025. End of March 2025. So this will be when the cycle will culminate, because the cycle begins and ends with the new moon. So we have this in between full moon lunar eclipse, which is actually saying how necessary it is to release the old patterns, because as an era is ending and giving a way for the new era to manifest, because it's already here, but it's not yet manifested. So yeah, and we can see that already there will be a very different dynamic. Saturn will be in a new phase. This will be already a new phase conjunction between Neptune and North Node, because they will have conjunct prior to that, and Venus is in Aries, which is the new direction. And this is, of course, currently Venus being the rule of the South Node. So this is the one we are evolving and releasing. But anyway, this is for future discussion. Now we're going to move on to the solar eclipse in Libra. So the solar eclipse in Libra started with the new moon. So this is a reset point, because this is a new moon. The solar eclipse in Libra, it's a new moon in Libra. Sorry, this is the, here, 2nd of October. This is once again an eclipse chart, so there is not quite the same minute between the sun and the moon. This is the eclipse. So this new moon solar eclipse in Libra is resetting the cycle that began a year ago on a new moon solar eclipse in Libra 2023, because the cycle is from new moon to new moon. Full moon is a midpoint. It is the 180 degree, the opposition. So this is where it all began. We can see at the time it was in a closing phase with the South Node. There were things that had to happen, which we didn't know yet. This was October 2023. There are a lot of things that happened since. We had the Chiron North Node conjunction, we had the Jupiter and Uranus conjunction, we had the Mars-Uranus conjunction, we had the Mars-Jupiter conjunction. We had tons of things. Also, Venus, just recently, after the new moon in Virgo, conjuncted South Node once more in the sign of Libra for the second time in 10 months. And this is under influence of Venus already being in the cycle of conjunction with Pluto in Aquarius. In 2023, that was not yet the case. So a lot of stuff got reset. So this was an energy which was in a closing phase with the South Node. It said things have to culminate. Then we had the full moon, the lunar eclipse in Libra, which was in March 2024. And this was the illumination. This was the midpoint. And at the time of this full moon, we had Pluto already in Aquarius, of course, March, but also we can see that there was all this stellium in the sign of Aries. However, this was still in a closing phase. We can see the nodes not yet met the sun and the moon, because sun and north node conjunction happened on April 4th. 4-4 portal, right before the new moon solar eclipse in Aries. And this is once again prior to the conjunction of the Jupiter and Uranus. Jupiter as the storyteller, as the perception of the reality, the story that we are co-creating as a humanity on this planet. So yeah, Pluto again in Aquarius for the second time, Venus in Pisces, Saturn in Pisces. This is a new phase conjunction between Venus and Saturn, and still closing phase between Mars and Saturn. And actually the conjunction between Mars and Saturn happened a week after the eclipse in Aries. So again, we see illumination, whatever got seeded for you in your personal life in October 2023, you saw the illumination of that in March, which would be very likely like, okay, I don't want to live this way, in this kind of relating, this kind of pattern, this kind of pattern of inequality or codependency or upmanship, or somebody is in charge. It's not equal. Whatever it is that is not equal in our life got illuminated in March 2024, and the energy of that got seeded in October 2023. So this is the chart that we are going to be discussing more in depth, which is the upcoming solar eclipse in Libra 2024, which is the reset of the cycle, as I mentioned, that began a year ago in October 2023. So here we can see things already moved. This is a new phase. You can see that the new moon eclipse is happening in a new phase conjunction on the south node. Reset, new phase. And for the past 12 months, we were closing cycles. We were identifying what is no longer working and what we cannot take with us into the age of Aquarius, because Libra, Aquarius, they trine each other. Libra and Gemini and Aquarius is the grand air trine. And we know that Jupiter, as that storyteller, is in the sign of Gemini, which is all about the choice. And this is week before Jupiter stations retrograde, which will be on October 9th. So we can see Mercury is in a new phase conjunction with Sun and the Moon. Also Lilith. Lilith is in a new conjunction, which is we need to look at the shadows, at the underbelly of the humanity, which is where we find the reasons for this inequality and disempowerment, because where people are not allowed to be themselves, where people are not allowed to have their needs met, that need becomes distorted, that personality becomes distorted, because there is so much suppression that something has to give. And usually people disassociate, they're detached from their heart, their humanity, whatever it is, and then they do the things they do. Obviously, we can say, yes, some people, of course, came here with the role to play, and whatever the circumstances led them to become the way they became, everything is divinely orchestrated, which is, again, it's very hard for our human ego mind to understand from the logical perspective how bad things can happen and be divinely orchestrated. But when we look at it from the perspective of the theater, from like imagine, or a movie, right? You wouldn't go to the movie premiere, and then if you have the good fortune to see the actors afterwards, you wouldn't go and now go and fight with the person that played the negative character, like, hey, how dare you, or something. I mean, some people might, but this person just played their role, that doesn't mean they are like that in their real life, like like Heath Ledger wasn't like Joker, right? But like, this is the role he played, and he played it very well, whatever. And then we can say, like, to which extent people are playing, or there are all these nuances to that. But if you just keep it simple, we don't go judging the actor for playing that role. Obviously, we judge the character, like in the play or in the movie, we say, well, I don't like this Betty, this bad person, I like the hero. Everybody likes the hero. So that's what I mean, like in a society, in our human collective, there are people who chose the not so heroistic roles, but everybody has a role to play, because these people represent the contrast. They also represent the pressure. The square, we can see Mars again is very active. Prior on this full moon lunar eclipse in Pisces, Mars was squaring the nodes. Now Mars is squaring the actual eclipse. It is still within a degree of squaring the nodes. So it's still pointing to the north node, and it's also squaring Chiron. The wounding of the humanity, this division, the polarization, the good and bad, and all that. But actually, everything is needed. And why is it needed? Because there is still learning that needs to take place. There is still balancing and neutralizing of the energy. And the best way, I was very simplistically being explained this by the spirit when I did one of my channeling a few weeks ago, was that, well, you have a plus and you have a minus, you have the negative and you have the positive, and then they create the zero, and that is the 0 point, the point from which everything is created, the void. So if we add too much of a plus, is just too much of one energy, too much of the minus is too much of another energy, but either way there is an imbalance. So we need to put the plus to the minus in order for the energy to neutralize, right? It's like you have plus, you have a £1 or $1, and then you spend $1, you have zero, right? So it's like that. So with regards to what we are experiencing collectively, there is too much polarization and too much of a certain charge, certain charge, especially current days, is the negative charge. But that's not all there is, because obviously, the media is wanting us to pay attention to just certain aspect of human reality. It doesn't mean that there are not good things happening in the world, but we are focused on the negative, and this is how we programmed to be. Majority of people it's much easier for us to notice the negative. Like this is something we pick up, or even in the comments, there could be 100 good comments, you have the one negative one, we stuck on the negative one, and we think about it all day, like, oh my god, this one person doesn't like me, and we don't care about these 100 people that like us, right? It is the way we are programmed, it is way we are conditioned. This is a polarization which creates the division and separation, and it doesn't matter what is the story, right? Because we know Sagittarius is mutable. You can believe whatever you believe, it doesn't make somebody right or somebody wrong. It's just when one person start projecting their story onto someone else, where they take the free will of the other person, or saying I'm more important or I am superior, so you should believe what I believe. That's again the inequality. But where does it come from? This is the thing, to understand the meaning, like with the Neptune, understand the meaning, what got us to this point. Because like they even say, if we don't learn from the history, even though again we can go into rabbit hole of, well, what history are we really learning? Because the history that we learn is not necessarily how things happen. But beside that, if we don't learn from the past, we are bound to repeat it. And that's exactly what's happening. So with this new moon solar eclipse in Libra, which is happening in a new phase conjunction with the South Node, and we can see Venus, that is ruled by Pluto, currently retrograde back in Capricorn, and Saturn is still retrograde, Neptune is still retrograde. These are all connected by the rulership. Venus is in the sign of Scorpio, but this is also already Piscean decan, which is saying that the way we can either feel empowered or disempowered depends on whether we understand the meaning, whether we are willing to forgive, and whether we are willing to look at it from the higher perspective. So going back to the analogy of these actors, everybody has a role to play. Why do we need the bad actors in a movie? Because how would we know who is the hero? How would it make things exciting? It would be just boring, and stuff, which is, again, we can just look at documentaries. We don't have to, we can look at something that is neutral, right? We don't have to look at charged movies or something. But the soul comes here on this stage, on planet Earth, to play a role, to have, be participate in a game, participate in a play, whatever it is, right? And this is all chosen by a free will of the soul. Nobody is here by force, and nobody is here under some kind of curse or spell. Like whatever we are experiencing, the soul is always in charge. Always, 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 always. The soul, your higher self, is always in charge, always. And it just then depends on our ego mind whether we want to push against it or go with the flow of it. Now again, this means different things to different people, but what it means for the collective, for the humanity, is the things that we are experiencing at the moment as the imbalance of our experience, and also more and more people becoming aware of it, because as the consciousness of humanity is expanding, we are no longer a frequency match to what we are experiencing. So if you go back a few hundred years ago, it was perfectly acceptable, in the medieval times, to watch somebody being decapitated. That was an entertainment of the time. Going even further back, gladiators and, killing the lions, or lions killing the gladiator, whatever. This was an entertainment, like we look back at this time and we think like how barbaric, how awful, but at the time that was the level of human collective consciousness, so we can go and judge and go like, oh my God, what were these people thinking? But these people were us, in a different body, in a different time and age. It was not exactly who we are now, because the sun is unique. In each incarnation, we play a different role, we put on different costume, but the soul signature is obviously there. But that's what I'm trying to say. We can go back hundreds of years and judge what was normal at the time, you know, that was the Libra, that was what was normal at the time. But now we are experiencing, and also wars, there always was a war. Like there is never in the human history, there's much less war now than there was ever before, even though we look at it and we go, oh my god, there is so much war in the world. But when we look throughout the history of the humankind, there always was a war, to as far as we can remember, as far as what we were being told. Obviously this is not necessarily the truth, going back, you know, to the origins, but this is what we know, this is what we remember. But now, because of the rising of human collective consciousness and awakening of the humanity, we are no longer frequency matched to this which was normal before. You know, this was normal, it's not normal anymore, because we are no longer resonating with this frequency. Obviously, again, unique to individuals, some people do, some people don't. But again, Mars being a sign of Cancer, and this is a Scorpio decan, again, about this empowerment, disempowerment, right? Which is the same as Venus. You know, Venus is in Scorpio, but this is a Pisces decan. So it's about empowerment, disempowerment. It all depends on how we perceive the situation based on our identity, and whether we want to be attached to this old identity that thought this was normal, or we breaking free from the identity which were attached to prior, that thought that the reality we experienced prior to that was normal and it was okay because that was all that we had available. But now, as we are individuating and awakening to our true essence, and our true authentic expression wants to be part of our life, you know, our soul wants to be present, this is no longer working for us. So we have this new moon solar eclipse in Libra, which is saying we are birthing a new way of relating, new way of relating to the experience on planet Earth. And this is an Aquarian decan, 10 degrees, 2 or 3 minutes, either way. This is already an Aquarian decan, which is talking about this individuation, equality. It's just about right on only 10 degrees, but still it is already in Aquarian decan. So it's all about us breaking free from this outdated pattern, from this way things were before. There's also, as we can see, the trine, still the trine active between Uranus and Pluto. Uranus and Pluto, where is Neptune? It should be also, Neptune should be involved. Yes, there is also a sextile. Yeah, it's the kite, is the roof of the kite is still present here, because this is, it's time. It's time. We are exactly where we meant to be. We are exactly where we agreed to be at this time in human evolution, where we are awakening and saying, this is not the way we want to exist on this planet. This is not the way we want to relate to one another and to life, because Libra is the bridge between your, you know, yourself, your inner world, and the reality you are experiencing, which of course these people, as we were talking about, you know, with this reflection and mirroring, they are part of the experience. Because would there be no people around us, you know, like there is, yes, we can grow and evolve in isolation, but just to a certain degree. Just to a certain degree, because we need the mirroring, we need the reflection, we also need the triggers, because the blind spots, right, we don't always see. That's why so much stuff comes out when we are in a relationship with someone that normally we are not aware of, right, because we have blind spots. So with the solar eclipse in Libra, it's saying there is a new way of relating that's being birthed. However, there will be no lunar eclipse in Libra, because the next eclipse in springtime, there will be an eclipse in Virgo, and then there will be an eclipse in Aries. So we actually will not have a lunar eclipse in Libra until 2040, 2032, 33, I think. Let me see, I have it all ready here. Yes, the next eclipse in Libra, lunar eclipse, will be in 2033, April 14, 2033, and this will be on the north node. The next eclipse in Libra on the south node, the next lunar eclipse on the south node will be in April 2042. And this is also the case with regards to the lunar eclipse in Aries. There will be no lunar eclipse in Aries until 2032 on a south node, and no lunar, which is the full moon, no lunar eclipse in Aries on the north node again until 2041. So it's like, you know, we have so much work to do for this transit of Pluto through the sign of Aquarius, to understand what really is being seeded at this time. So just to wrap it up and make it very simple for everyone, the full moon lunar eclipse in Pisces is about culmination of an era, which now lost the meaning because it's no longer in alignment with the Aquarian age, because it was created by the reflection and projection. Because we believed it. We believed that we believe the reflection in a mirror is who we are, but it's just a reflection. It is not who we are, because who you are is inside of you, right? And now with this new moon solar eclipse in Libra, we are birthing something which we will not see illuminated. We will not see illuminated with regards to North Node, as I mentioned, until 2033, with regards to South Node again until 2042. So we will not see fully what does this mean? What does this mean to live on this planet in a different way, to relate in a different way, in an equal way, where people don't have to play these polarized roles? Because if everybody's equal, right, if everybody's able to just be who they are and have their needs met and be authentic and just belong where they meant to belong, and not try to push themselves to belong where they don't really want to fit in, where they don't want to belong, but because of the conditioning we were being told, well, you just have to adjust yourself, you just have to become what the other person wants you to be in order to make it work, right? How many of us heard that? Well, you just need to learn to compromise in your relationship to make it work. To which extent? Because there is a compromise and there is a workability. There is a compromise, which means you sacrifice something that's important to you, which is like, for example, couple, one wants child, one doesn't. This is a big problem. This is a big issue, because these are big needs that these two souls might have that are opposing, right? They are opposing one another. Now, if you are in a relationship and you want to have pizza for dinner, but your husband wants to have a curry, but you like both, you both like both, you just, one is feeling more like this and one is feeling more like that, that is a workability. This is something that, yeah, I can compromise on that. Yeah, I'm happy to have what you prefer, because this is not such a big deal to me. Now, the child question, much bigger deal, right? So with regards to the experience on this planet, we were being told you need to sacrifice who you are, because this is what the external world wants you to be. This is no longer going to fly. This new moon in Libra, it's saying that in order for us to not have this division, separation, inequality, and extremes where people are acting out from their trauma, we need to allow for people to be who they are, and that then the needs won't get distorted. Is this shadow of the humanity, the Lilith. We need to look at the underbelly of humanity and understand why it became the way it is, and what led to this point, and how we can coexist in a different way. But it starts from within. It starts from the individual, like for us each to look in that mirror, understand the reflection, but actually go within and understand that, well, what it is that I don't give to myself, then I then project on the outer world, and the outer world then mirror it back to me, projecting stuff onto me to say that, oh, you do it for me, because I can't do it for myself, because I was being told if I become all these things and stuff, then I will get what I want, right? Or but in many cases we don't even feel deserving, because majority of us came from the environment where we were being told this is what a good person does, this is what a bad person does, and if you does these things that you don't deserve, you're gonna go and send to the corner, or you will not get your cookie after dinner because you are a bad girl or a bad boy. So we rejected aspects of ourselves, which then we go throughout our entire life trying to retrieve and call back to us, usually by meeting people who trigger the hell out of us, because they are representing this aspect of ourselves that we had to reject. So that's why universe will send us opportunities through people and circumstances to remind us, okay, this is what needs healing. So with regards to the society and our human collective, we can see, this is a new moon. So new moon is the birthing of the new relational paradigm, the new pattern of the humanity with regards to relating, which requires for us to let go of the attachment to these old identities, to these old versions of ourselves that either felt superior or inferior, which is the Scorpio. Am I empowered and control, or do I feel disempowered? But actually, it all comes from within. It all comes from within. So this illumination of the pattern that needs to end is this lunar eclipse in Pisces. The totality of everything that ever was, it's now manifested in a tangible physical reality, and we can now decide, does this still hold the meaning, as is this something that we want to take with us into the future or not? And alongside with that, we have a solar eclipse in Libra, which will not have the lunar eclipse in Libra until 2033 and then 42, depending on which node you want to look at. So we have a time to go, we have a time to go. And of course, with the nodes moving into Virgo Pisces throughout 2025 until mid 2026, this is all about learning and adjusting and releasing. And these are the eclipses that we'll be experiencing throughout this period of time, even though the astrology is following the Aquarian break of the pattern. So we will no longer will have, this Aries Libra eclipse at the same time and Virgo Pisces eclipse at the same time, even though there will be Virgo and Pisces together next year in fall. But in spring, it is still mixed bag of goodies. And then in 2026, it will become even more crazy than that. So anyway, guys, I'm going to leave it at that because, as you can tell, I could talk about astrology forever, but I know people have other things to do. But I do hope that at least some of what I said offers more clarity with regards to these energies that we are interacting with. But the choice is always up to us, because Jupiter being a sign of Gemini, and as I mentioned, by this point, it is in Aquarian decan by the point of these eclipses. The choice is ours. It's up to the individual to decide how they want to be interacting with these energies that we are experiencing and what do we want to make out of it. Because, our present moment is creating our next moment, right? The now is creating our future. So this is an opportunity to learn from the past and create a different future by responding a different way, and also by becoming someone different, so we can experience a different reality. So once again, thank you everybody for listening. If you are still listening, if you would like to connect with me, you can find me on Lada's website. And do share how this is showing up for you in your experience, in your reality, because I'm sure you feel in both energies, the energy of the release and also of the confusion, because who will I be if I'm not who I was, but also the energy of the desire for more balance, harmony, equality, and to be treated in a more equal manner where we all matter in the same way. Nobody is superior or inferior. We are equal, which is the Aquarian, the symbol for Aquarius, the two parallel lines. And this is what's breaking the pattern of the past, which is no longer what we want to bring with us into the future in the same shape and form anyway. So much love to everyone. Have a wonderful time. Have a wonderful eclipse season. And I'll speak to you a day soon. Much love, everyone. Bye for now.